Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on the channel. Today I'm going to be going through my round 23 AFL tips. Obviously this is the final round of the home and away season. It's going to be an exciting final round. Obviously there's still a place in the 8 up for grabs between Carlton and the Bulldogs. St Kilda, they'd have to win by like 100 odd points, so they're pretty much out of the equation. So yeah, look, without further ado, I say we get into the tips, starting off with a cracking Friday night matchup between Brisbane and Melbourne at the Gabba. It's one of the most anticipated matches of the season. Brisbane, but I think whoever wins this wraps up a top 4 spot, and whoever loses this likely misses the top 4 going into finals. So it's a big matchup. It's at the Gabba, and Brisbane obviously have an incredible record at the Gabba over the last couple of seasons. I think Melbourne overall are the better side, but the Gabba factor is making me want to tip the Lions here, and I will tip the Lions. In fact, I'll tip them by 8 points. Should be a thrilling Friday night match. Hopefully Brisbane get it done for my tipping sake. GWS versus Fremantle, not a completely dead rubber game. Fremantle still have a potential top 4 spot on the line. GWS, nothing really to play for, but Fremantle definitely. This game looms as potentially a bit of a danger game for Fremantle. They could potentially take this one a bit more lightly than they should. And seeing as it is at GWS's home ground, there's potential here for an upset. Last time these two sides played, it was close up until 3/4 time, and in the last quarter, Fremantle kicked about 6 goals to nothing, I think, something like that. I will go with a safer tip to tip Fremantle. I'll tip them by 17 points. Hopefully a good game. I feel probably won't be a blowout, but if Fremantle play like they've got a top 4 spot on the line, then they probably should get the job done comfortably. North Melbourne versus Gold Coast. This really is a dead rubber game, this one. It's 18th taking on 12th. It's just it's not a completely dead rubber game actually, because North Melbourne still have an opportunity to avoid the wooden spoon. If they win this, I dare say they aren't finishing in last spot, and I am actually going to tip them. It's going to be a home game for them. Gold Coast, they really fall away at the end of seasons, and this year's no exception. They've won one of their last 5 games. They just got flogged by Geelong at their home ground. North Melbourne, I feel like they'll want to get a win for Ben Cunnington, who's been out for most of the season. This is going to be his first home match of the season, and also his last home match of the season. So I feel like they might just get up for him. I'll tip him by 13 points. North haven't been going as bad lately. They've been more competitive than they were in the first half of the season, but they're still struggling. But I'll tip them to get this win and probably avoid the wooden spoon. Here's the other game that'll decide who wins the wooden spoon. Pretty simple tip here. Geelong at GMHBA Stadium, West Coast. They're going to be playing at a ground that the last 2 times they played there, they got smashed by 97 points and 92 points respectively last season, and that was when they weren't even that bad. So Geelong have gotten better since then. They also played Sydney there last year because of COVID, but let's for the sake of the matchup, let's talk about the game they played against Geelong there. So they played against Geelong back when they still looked like a top 8 side, and Geelong were not quite as good as they were now. Geelong since then have improved. West Coast since then have have gotten worse. So you'd think that'd probably mean this is going to be an even bigger margin. However, I feel like it's the last round of the season. Geelong already have top spot guaranteed. They cannot lose top spot, no matter what happens in this match. So I feel like they won't really put in. I feel like they'll tank a little bit. They might rest a few players. I know Jeremy Cameron's out, and I'll only tip them by 49 points. It's just it could be an absolute belting for the ages. That'd probably be a bit more entertaining than just a 7 or 8 goal win for Geelong. But I feel like they probably won't. They won't put in a 100% effort. They'll probably just get the win done, and they'll go into finals with an 18-4 record. So yeah, I'll tip Geelong by 49. Essendon taking on Richmond now. Not really much to play for in this game. Richmond, they can't possibly miss the 8. They also can't possibly get a home elimination final or a top 4 spot. Essendon, they've just had a terrible week, haven't they? Their president quit. Their coach, I thought he was sacked, and then it turned out he wasn't sacked. It was just a weird ordeal. Been a terrible week for them. Richmond in very hot form. Yeah, I'll tip this one to be a big margin. I'll go Richmond by 62. They're just playing so much better than the Bombers right now. That was an embarrassing loss for Essendon. They at times didn't look like they were even trying at all against Port Adelaide. Their coach is about to be sacked. For some reason he isn't already. I don't know why. Yeah, Richmond by 62 should be. Yeah, it'll be. I can't see Essendon getting anywhere near this one. The showdown now. There's not much to play for in this showdown. Potentially, if Port Adelaide lost last week. Well, no. If Port Adelaide did lose last week, then they and Adelaide would be on the same amount of wins, and whoever won this showdown would have finished higher than the opposition. But unfortunately, that's not the case, so there's not really anything to play for. It's Robbie Gray's final game in his career. He announced his retirement, and for that reason, I'll tip Port Adelaide by 26. It's their home showdown. I think, they should get the job done. Hawthorn versus the Bulldogs. This is an interesting matchup because if the Dogs lose this, they are absolutely no chance of making finals, mathematically impossible. But if they win this, then it'll come down to Sunday's match between Carlton and Collingwood to see who out of those two sides, Carlton and the Bulldogs, makes finals. It's at UTAS, where Hawthorn have a stellar record. They did lose a game there earlier this season, but for the most part, they're pretty good there. Last year, in the final few rounds, when Hawthorn were a lot worse off than the Bulldogs, they did manage to beat them there, the Hawks. This is a tough matchup. I think this is a coin toss. Honestly, this is as 50-50 as it gets. Because Dogs are definitely a better side than the Hawks, but at UTAS, the Dogs, I don't think they have a good record there. I know they lost their last season when everyone expected them to win. It's a tough matchup to pick, that's for sure. I'll go the Dogs. I'll go the Dogs just. I'll tip them by 2 points, but it's really a 50-50 game for me. It's a very hard one to tip. Alright, so the most anticipated matchup of the round. We have Collingwood taking on Carlton. There's a lot to play for in this match. Obviously, Carlton, if they win this, they guarantee a spot in the 8. If they lose this, depending on what happens in the game before that, they may miss out on the top 8. Collingwood, if they win this, they guarantee themselves a spot in the top 4, unless there's a draw in the Melbourne versus Brisbane matchup. So if either team loses that match, they'll be out of the top 4 if Collingwood win this. But if Collingwood lose, then they aren't a chance at making the top 4. So there's a huge there's a lot to play for. Obviously, they're traditional rivals as well, arguably the biggest rivals in AFL history. Yeah, this will be an absolute cracking match. There'll be a crowd of 80 to 90,000. It'll be one of the matches of the season potentially. I'm going to tip Carlton in this one. I'll tip Carlton by 11 points. Collingwood, I feel like their luck's run out. Their luck has finally run out. They won 11 games in a row. Like, a lot of those games were extremely close, lucky to get away with. They lost against Sydney, and I feel like they just might hit a little bit of a roadblock before finals. Carlton have a lot to play for. They almost pipped Melbourne last week. I think they will get it done against Collingwood this week. So yeah, Carlton by 11 points is my tip. Final game of the round, Sydney versus St Kilda. If Sydney win this, then they guarantee themselves top spot. St Kilda, it's mathematically possible for them to make finals, but they need like a crazy 200-point win or something, which obviously isn't going to happen. So yeah, they're finals. They're out of the mix for finals. I think this one's a pretty simple tip. I'll go Sydney by 25. Yeah, there's not much to say here. Sydney, 6 wins in a row, going a lot better than the Saints right now. And yeah, that'll wrap up the round of tipping. That'll wrap up the season of tipping, at least for the regular season. So, in top spot we have Geelong. Well, that was guaranteed, even if I tipped West Coast to win by 300 points. Then we have Sydney in second. I feel that's the most likely result. Brisbane in third. That's going to be a huge matchup on the Friday night to see who finishes in third spot. Fremantle just in the top 4. Melbourne missing out on the top 4 after starting the season 10-0. Collingwood in 6th spot, as I have them losing to Carlton. Richmond in 7th spot. Carlton in 8th spot, just with a win over Collingwood. Bulldogs, I've tipped them to beat the Hawks. However, I feel that may not be enough to get them in finals. St Kilda in 10th spot, Port Adelaide in 11th, Gold Coast in 12th, Hawthorn in 13th, Adelaide in 14th, Essendon 15th, GWS 16th, North Melbourne just avoiding the wooden spoon with a win over the Suns, in my opinion, in 17th, and West Coast with only 2 wins for the season and a percentage of 61.0 in 18th spot. So yeah, that'll wrap things up for today. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I will do finals tipping videos, and I will do a general finals, who I think will win each of these finals and the semi-finals and the prelims and the grand final. Obviously, I'll do that. I'll do a power rankings video as well on the top 8 teams, as I said I would in the last power rankings video. So yeah, I reckon for now we'll just we'll wait to see how the round plays out, and yeah, I will see you all in the next one. Bye.